Well, hello. Now, this idea to create this video has come because I had a wonderful conversation with Jane Harter and with Felicity, and we were talking about the world and how do we, as older women, kind of step up and provide support for younger people, women, men, children, grandchildren, whoever, because it feels to us, and Felicity and Jane will be talking about this as well, that we really are standing at a major crossroads in human history. And it's not very comfortable. And we thought that we would bring our life experience together to see if we could impart any form of wisdom that might be of help. So my name is Sue Brayne, and I am an astrologer. And Jane is a psychotherapist. She's just training with the Psychosynthesis Institute. And Felicity, I'm sure many of you will know her. She's the founder of Soul Midwives. And kind of between us, we've got rather a lot of experience of life under our bridge, whether that's been painful, which it certainly has, I think I know for all of us, but also joyous. And it's how do we use what we understand, this flow of river between the three of us, to bring some form of support to you, whoever is looking at this video. So I'm going to throw this open and I'm going to invite Jane to speak first. And we're going to explore how we feel as older people about what's happening in the world and what is most helpful at the moment. So Jane, do you want to start by saying something about that?
Well, I guess I would start by saying how deeply shocking and horrifying it all is, actually. And the kind of energy of bullying and narcissism that is just calling the shots in our world at the moment. And it's interesting because I've recently been with some other friends asked to go and talk to a group of drama students who were putting on a little play about Greenham, and they wanted us to reminisce about Greenham Common.
Wow.
And what that was like. And it feels as though some of the same responses are being asked of us. And one thing was interesting was one thing I remembered was that when there was this around the base at Greenham Common where 20,000 women came together and surrounded these American missiles, and it's really interesting with our current relationship with America and American power, that we surrounded the base and, there were these very high wire fences and huge concrete posts, but with 20,000 women shaking the fence and all in different, not all in synchronous rhythm, but shaking, that they actually started to loosen. You could actually feel the fences starting to quiver. And I think I'm holding on to that sense of communal agency and power, non-violent, but very, very eloquent female power as a kind of touchstone for being in the world now.
Mm. Gosh, I never went to Greenham Common. My life took me in another direction, but I can only imagine. Oh, Felicity said she might have to go in and out. I can only imagine it must have been an incredible experience.
Yeah, and I think it's that, when you come up against this monolithic power, and I was so shocked and appalled by that terrible Trump and JD Vance bullying Zelensky, just these big bully guys humiliating this man of great integrity and courage who's been trying to, guide his beleaguered, invaded country through 3 years of war. And so there's something in there around, the bullying, overcoming that sense of authenticity. So I think it's like, how do we each connect with our authenticity, and how do we each connect with our sense of meaning and purpose in the face of that? How
Yes.
how do we shake the wire fence, even though it might seem absolutely overwhelming?
Yes. I think it is. It's about that's the thing, Jane, isn't it? It's about how do we deal with the overwhelm? How do we deal with feeling like I'm just a little person sitting in my house or doing whatever I do? I can't make a difference. And I disagree with that, because for me, I believe that the more that we connect with our authenticity, and I think that's such a great word at the moment, what is authentic? What do we believe and what don't we believe? And if you know who you are, if you've connected deeply with who you are, then we do stand a chance of actually standing up and sort of putting that courage into the zeitgeist, rather than putting fear, trepidation, and aggression. There seems to be an awful lot of aggression at the moment.
Mm, mm. I think the million-dollar question is how to channel that activism and that energy.
Yes. And that's it. So how do we, as older women, we've been around a while, how do we what do we say to people to provide support and actually hope? Because I think without hope, life gets very grey.
Mm.
I I do have hope, because I've got hope in the human spirit, the tenacity of the human spirit. And being an astrologer, it's been very helpful for me to see how the cycles of the planets are definitely we are experiencing the movement of the planets in this way. And there will be an end to it, because it's a cycle. It isn't set in stone. So it's about attuning to this cycle. So, and knowing there will be an end to it at some point. And for me, I find that helpful. The fact that everything in the universe is cyclical, including how we respond to ourselves through the moon cycle, particularly as women. And I just wondered where you were with that.
And I suppose what speaks to me in that is my Buddhist practice, because I practice in the tradition, the Plum Village tradition, the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh, who, brought mindfulness to the West, and, during the Vietnam War, went to America to sue for peace, and always refused to take one side over the other.
Mm,
Because as soon as you do that, as soon as you other and make
yes.
one side the enemy, you're caught in that cycle. And at the heart of Buddhist teaching, and I'm a very imperfect Buddhist practitioner, that's for sure, is this idea of impermanence, and finding hope in the midst of despair. Um, that
Mm.
can feel really difficult, really difficult.
But it's funny, Jen. I don't know if this has happened to you. I've just been writing about this today, actually. I'm sure you've had some pretty dark times. And I went through a very, very dark time at one point where I really didn't want to be here anymore. And however dark it got, it felt like the universe, and that's the only word I can describe it as. It felt like it was talking to me, whether it was my higher self or not, I don't know. But I did feel it kept saying to me, keep going. There's more to come.
Mm,
And it's that kept me here
mm,
and kept me wanting to engage with yet another day, however difficult and frightening it was.
Mm.
And I look back on that now, and I can see the transits that were going on at the time in my chart, which were really difficult. But I felt that the universe was constantly communicating with me, don't give up, don't give up. And I feel like that for humanity, that the tenacity of humanity, we have, my God, we've survived for thousands of years through horrific things. I mean, I went to a lecture the other day on witchcraft in the Middle Ages and what happened to really ordinary people, how the church turned against them and they were starting to be accused of witchcraft. Well, actually, what they were older women who didn't have a man to protect them. They didn't have a father, a brother, a husband, or whatever, or even a son. And we've been through horrible times in human history, and we've survived. And I wonder how you are around that, and whether you want to say anything about that.
I think the difficulty, without, talking too much about the dark side, though, is that our capacity to damage the planet is very different now.
Yes.
The loss of species, the damage to the land is really unprecedented. And so how do we continue to find meaning and also that sense of renewal in the midst of that?
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know that I have any answers. I think it's something I'm really struggling with. When I read about the extinction of species, it's heartbreaking. I know Joanna Macy is, her kind of doing the work that heals around the environment speaks to that.
Yes.
That we have to hold the heartbreak of the loss and the reality of the loss.
I think that's it, isn't it? It's actually it's being willing to hold the heartbreak. And I think the sort of the sense of disappointment in humanity's behavior at the moment. We haven't stepped up because it doesn't feel like we have. But perhaps this, and also, I'm so encouraged by young people and their desire to do something to help the planet, to bring some form of rebalance into it. And I think for me, the hope for humanity lies with the younger people, because I feel like I'm going up the end of my life cycle, and my time is coming because I'm a much older person. But these young people have the vision. I've met some incredible young people who are just saying, what do you do? And they go, I'm a marine biologist, or I'm here to do rewilding. Or so they are here, they are doing the work. But I think we as older people are looking back on the world going, what happened in our lifetime, 70 years lifetime? It wasn't like this when we were born.
Mm. Well, I think, and paradoxically, talking about Greenham, it did, although it was a dark time, in a way, it did feel more hopeful. It felt there was more possibility. And certainly the right to protest was there at the time. Now we're seeing women our age being imprisoned for years for civil disobedience and protest. So there have been dark shifts in that. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot of hope there. I think, that sense of needing to connect with the landscape becomes more and more important. And I think of Robin Wall Kimmerer's wonderful book, Braiding Sweetgrass, and the Native American traditions of just being so much more connected with the land and the seasons, and that sense of that wonderful reciprocal symbiotic relationship. So how do we tune into that? Um, yeah, it's interesting. And also I've been quite aware as an older woman that you can kind of catch people's projections as a sort of an authority figure. And that feels very different from someone who holds through life experience some kind of inner authority of like, having come through dark times and having come through many experiences, and the kind of layers of all of that within us. So yeah.
Do you know? I mean, I don't want to go into we're all going to jump into the fifth dimension. I'm not into that at all because for me, that doesn't feel, it just feels like we're bypassing something
Yeah.
because in my experience of hitting the difficult times, the only way is sometimes 1 hour at a time. You
Yeah. And you've got to go in to come out. You've got to
go
go
down.
through it. Yeah.
Please go to that underworld because that's the rebirth. And I think that's what's happening to humanity. I really do. And I don't want to be a hope. There's a word for people who are hopelessly hopeful. But I don't want to, I hope I'm not sounding like that, but I do believe that people are beginning to wake up to say we have to change. It cannot go on like this. And we all know that.
Mm.
So I do feel that the internal journey is often really reflected as the the external journey, the as above so below, as within so without. And that gives me hope as well, the fact that we do bottom out and we say we can never behave like this again. And yes, when your life falls apart, everything goes, it dies, everything dies. And the rebuilding is coming up as a totally a different person, looking back, going, do you know what? I'm really glad it did die. It was horrendous at the time, but I needed to go in this direction, to be a different person. And so that for me, I feel that is what's happening. And also for me, I do listen to the teachings of the Kali Yuga. Whether they're real or not, I have no idea, but they certainly date back over 4,000 to 5,000 years, and they're talking about the precession of the equinoxes and the 26,000 year cycle, huge cycle that we are apparently coming to the end of, and at the end of every one of these major cycles is devastation because things have to die to be reborn. But we're witnessing the death rather than the birth at the moment.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because the kind of death is being human deaths of children in Gaza, deaths of people in Ukraine and in Russia, deaths of people in Israel, wherever, or Yemen, or Somalia, Ethiopia, wherever there are kind of Congo, there are so many places of darkness and suffering and violence and exploitation of human beings. So it's kind of, for me, I think, balancing that with all we ever have is our own internal life. To we can't allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by that. So it's kind of, how do we hold that compassionately, and
Yes.
also aim to be all that we might be, really, while in this time that we have on earth. How we hold both of those.
Mm. It's a difficult one. And I think it's a very difficult one at the moment. I don't think anybody's got we haven't got the answers, that's for sure,
No.
because we're in the process of manifestation and we don't know where that manifestation is going at the moment. But I
Mm,
do believe that for me, the thing that has got me through is a faith in something greater than me.
mm,
And
mm,
I believe that's stable, and I believe that's constant. And I had a very powerful mystical experience when I was about 40, when I was shown the love of the universe. And I believe that to be present. I really do. And I believe what I was shown, and I was also shown very clearly that life was only an experience. And that's always sustained me through the really difficult times. And it's also sustaining me now because I don't believe we're destroying the love. I don't think that's possible.
yeah, no, I would agree with you with that. And it's absolutely the essence of psychosynthesis as well, that Assagioli, the founder of psychosynthesis, said, it's not, we're not just talking about pathologizing the human condition here. We're talking about what's emergent, that potential, that love and grace and beauty in humanity. And how do we call on that and help that unfold, support that unfolding? So that's very much what drew me to training in psychosynthesis, that sense of that love. I think, is it in the Gnostic Gospels, they call it that divine spark that each baby is born with, how to manifest that.
Mhm.
So how to manifest it in a very scary, hostile universe, but still believe in that love flows through all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the message I want to give to anyone who's watching, who's in despair. In my own lived experience, it was as real to me, what happened for me in my mystical experience, as I'm sitting here talking to you, Jane. And I know that that's where I'm going home to. I just know that the love is there, and we are human beings, or for whatever reason, I think desperately trying to reconnect, but we don't know how to,
Mm,
because I think we just, whatever, for whatever reason, it was destroyed a long time ago. So my hope is that the darkness is the door, the portal, call it what you want, to reconnecting with this something greater than us.
very much so. I think there might be a line from Seamus Heaney, all I know is a door in the dark, I think. And so, yes, what you spoke to, that doorway through darkness, through suffering.
Mm.
And do we have a particular role to play as older women? I don't know. I mean, I think what something that came to me was, as a psychosynthesis therapist, your supervisors say, let yourself kind of be a resonating chamber for your client so that they can, their experience can resonate within you. And it occurred to me that, if we look at ourselves in that way, as we're older, we have different vibrational frequencies. It's almost like we're a bigger bell that can chime and resonate on different frequencies.
That's lovely. I love that. And that's true, isn't it? Because you can know a lot of things, but it isn't necessarily wise. I think for me, wisdom grows with you need a lot of water under your bridge to
Mm,
really understand what wisdom is about, because it's actually the lived experience.
mm,
That's how we learn. We learn through books in our heads, but it's when we really go into the heart and the soul, and that's when it starts. That's when you kind of feel, yeah, I got it now. And then,
mm.
there's a deeper and deeper level of getting it.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's very, very elusive, isn't it? There's those moments of, yes, here we are. And then,
So,
you know,
what can we leave people with, Jane? What would you like to say?
oh, enjoy the spring, I think. enjoy the crocuses, the buds on the trees, enjoy the bird song. Let's put our feet on the earth. Thich Nhat Hanh was a great teacher of walking meditation, and he would say, the miracle is not to walk on water or walk in space, but to walk upon the earth.
Yes.
So maybe to be present on the earth.
I love that. What's come to me is don't look for answers. Just be in the present moment, just witnessing what's going on. And if you feel overwhelmed, there's lots of strategies to bring that effect down. And you can find a therapist to talk to, you can find friends to talk to. It's about, I think now is a time for coming together to support each other.
Yeah.
And finding ways to build as much resilience as you possibly can, especially for parents of younger children, because it's a particularly scary time, I think, for parents of younger children. And obviously, I've got very young grandchildren and thinking, whoa, what's going to happen to them? But we don't know. And I think I have faith in the moment. It's called Kairos time. And I love that. It's taking the moment and not making decisions or any activity until you've really thought, is this the right time or is it not? What would most benefit if I waited and saw how things unfolded rather than was in complete reaction? And that gives you overwhelm. And that feeds the anger, and that feeds the anger in the zeitgeist. So that's what I would say to people is take a breath. Do you know
Yes.
what? We've survived so far. The planet will survive, no question.
Mm.
And we may not survive in the way that we are at the moment. Life will continue on
Mm.
this planet. It
Mm.
will.
Mm.
I just want to say, very sad to have lost Felicity. She came in and she left. But we're going to try and get her back at another time and have have an older woman chat.
Mm.
We hope this has helped. And if it has, really good to hear from you. If you want to leave comments below and anything that you would like us to talk about, we'd be very happy to do that. So from Jane and I, for now, we're going to say goodbye. See you next time.
Goodbye.